Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Sunday, February the 2nd. It's Groundhog Day, and welcome to episode 98 of the Wise Guys Sports Show. I am one of your hosts. I am the Big Rican on Sports, Mike Martinez. And without further ado, because of the insanity that is the NBA, I bring you my co host, Mr. JC Blue Note, Jim Cornetti, and James. Happy Sunday to you, and what the fuck happened overnight?
Phil Connors, man.
Well played, sir. Well played. How's the first couple days of February treating you?
Mini blizzard for about an hour earlier today. Watched the Cavaliers kick some ass. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But very, very slow, boring weekend. Just chugging along.
Yeah. Before we get to it, I just got to change my hat real quick. He's turning off my camera.
Mike, is there anything you'd like to put in the chat this evening? Because you'll be backstage for the next 2 hours.
You should have known that was coming. You know better. But in all seriousness, I wasn't kidding when I brought the lead in that we got a lot to get to and what did happen in the NBA last night. And now, by the way, Shams has it out. It's out. That last one we were just talking about before we came on is official. So what do you say we get to it? Let's get to the hat trick and let's try and make some sense of what's going on in the association tonight.
It's the three biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
So unless you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, the biggest trade this side of what, Jim? Soto to the Yankees for everybody and their mother? Or
I'd say, personally, I think this actually, in terms of blockbuster that nobody had on their bingo card, this I
No.
think is up there with Stafford for golf straight up. That might be the biggest one I can remember in the last few years.
Okay. I'll go with that. But the Los Angeles Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Utah Jazz have swung a three-team deal that here's the two major pieces. Anthony Davis goes to Dallas in essence for Luka Doncic. I got nothing.
The exact specifics on this, the Lakers will receive from Dallas forward guard star Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. The Mavericks will receive from the Lakers Max Christie, a 2029 first-round pick, and Anthony Davis, and Utah will receive guard Jalen Hood-Schifino, a 2025 second-round pick that was from the Los Angeles Clippers, and then Dallas's 2025 too, and that 2025 second rounder from the Clippers was something that Utah, I guess, reacquired in a previous deal with one of these two teams.
Yeah. That the draft pick compensation was basically swapping picks that no one's going to care about unless it's Bryce James that's drafted with it, because God knows the second round doesn't matter unless that's your last name. But let's get to the nitty-gritty on this, and let's talk about why a team like the Mavericks would do something like this, coming off a very respectable run to the NBA Finals last year. I think we said during our shows during the summer last year, the Boston Celtics were a team of destiny last year. I don't think anybody was beating them last year. But him and Kyrie, he's been hurt a little bit, as has AD. Him and Kyrie were vibing. They're not playing terrible until today. But Jim, I want to ask you this because this is what this said to me. One, the Mavericks didn't. First, you can tell Mark Cuban is no longer in charge in Dallas. As he famously once said, he would rather go to a divorce lawyer and then get rid of Luka. But this tells me, one, the Mavericks didn't like the way he handled himself, and two, the Los Angeles Lakers are planning for life after LeBron.
That's the first thing I thought of, is that this trade does not benefit either team. It
No.
makes zero sense. The Lakers are positioning themselves to put a star there, knowing that LeBron, even though he's got a player option after this year, is maybe going to come back for 1 year and walk. And the Lakers now set up for the idea that they've actually got a major star, who's still only 25 years old, even though he's actually had, some injury history the last couple of years, in arguably the biggest market, in the NBA. And with Dallas, it goes completely the opposite, because now you actually take a young stud and you add now a little bit more of an aging vet who's actually got quite a bit of injury history on his own. So now you've got Clay, who's only got a year or two left, injury history. You've got Kyrie, who's never really been healthy since his first few years before LeBron got to Cleveland. And now you add AD. 3 great names on paper, 3 great names well past their prime.
I wouldn't say Kyrie's past his prime, because remember, Kyrie came in at 18 years old. So, yeah, he's been in the league for quite a few years. Is he 10 years in already? Yeah. LeBron left after 2010, 10-11. So 11-12 was his rookie year.
I mean, we forget that Kyrie is 32.
Oh, he's 30. Oh, he came in at 19. Okay. So he's 13 years in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This makes no fucking sense. Other than the Lakers planning for life after LeBron, this makes no sense. And apparently the GM in Dallas called the Lakers and just threw it out there.
It's just everyone, gushing and doing backflips and everything. And, it doesn't make, because outside of, everyone said that when, Dallas made the move at the deadline, I can't remember if it was Spencer Dinwiddie, and then they got hot and went on a run. This isn't the same team. The Lakers are not going to be that team either. This is
no.
We're basically official at this point that you're looking at a 3, maybe 4 horse race between the Thunder, the Rockets, the Grizzlies, and you can never count out the Nuggets. Now, granted, the Lakers are sitting 5th in the West. They're 9 games over 500. They're 10 back. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Realistically, now that was one of the reasons why the Lakers were so good, is because they've got one of the last true few big men now who's really going to play the paint and be able to score with routine, ability. This is something where I would kill to be able to pick Brother Willie's, brain on right now.
I thought about seeing what he was doing tonight. And then got busy doing stuff, but we'll get with him, because we've got a lot coming up, and we got a lot of season left, obviously, with the NBA. We're not even to the All-Star break yet. But I want to talk,
because right now the Lakers center is 24-year-old Jackson Hayes, who was the 8th overall pick by Atlanta in 2019. Dorian Finney-Smith is their 3rd option. He's only 6'7". Morris is out right now, and he's basically down at the end of the bench, and he's only 6'9", but he's also 35 years old. So they really don't have a whole lot of size or experience. So they're going to be running out a lineup of Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect will probably go to the 6-man, Rui Hachimura, unless they actually run Connect out there, and then run Hachimura 6-man, LeBron and Hayes, and then Luka will be either the 2 or the 3 at this point. But that's, it's a decent team. There's a lot of name brand power between LeBron, Luka, and then you can maybe even throw Hachimura's name into there. But that's about where this ends.
No, I agree with you. Now, the one thing this does too is that if they make LeBron play the four, that's a disadvantage to them. Not really defensively, because LeBron can guard 4 to 5 spots still, but that's an awfully small lineup. I mean, this isn't. You don't have the shooters like the Golden State Warriors did back in their heyday 10 years ago.
Right.
That was 10 fucking years ago. God damn. Um, 10 years ago, where their death lineup, where you had a Draymond Green who could bang the boards and play defense, they don't have that. So now, what does the question become? I mean, let me say this: this is so unfair to JJ Redick. It's not even funny, because he's going to get. He's going to get fired. He's going to get fired.
If this thing blows up, absolutely. It's and I mean, we got the Wiseies coming up. Could I actually? I mean, is there a born on third base coach award? Is it between Ryan Day and JJ Redick at this point?
Yeah, toss up. But I wouldn't want to be Ryan Day with everything going down right now.
Right.
I know you're not paying attention, but there's been some shit. But we'll talk about that another time, because there's more stuff that we could get into, especially with the two teams that you and I like to scream at each other about. But let's go to the deal that actually just came down right before we went live, and this is Shams Charania. Is that how you say his whatever the hell his last name is? This is the new Woj, basically. The 3-team deal between the Chicago Bulls, the Sacramento Kings, and the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs received De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings get Zach LaVine, City Sissoko. Who the hell is that? 3 first-round picks, a 2025 from Charlotte, a 2027 from San Antonio, and a 2031 from Minnesota. 3 second-round picks, a 2025 from Chicago, a 2028 from Denver, and 2028, they got their own one back that they had already traded. And the Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, their own 2025 pick back from the Spurs. De'Aaron Fox, CP3, and Wembanyama sound like a pretty tough group to go through.
Absolutely. And I blogged about this earlier this week about I was hoping that this could have worked out where Fox could have stayed in Sacramento because of, really, he's been the focal point there. He was the one that kind of, led them back to prominence 2 years ago, where they won their first Pacific Division championship in 20 years. They got to the playoffs for the first time in 16. Yes, they went out in the first round in 7 to Golden State after being up 2-0 in that series, but it was a horrifically officiated first 4 games in that series. Let's call it what it is. Game 6 was atrocious as well. But now if you're Sacramento, Zach LaVine would be a nice piece to be able to match up with Dontavas Sabonis, and I apologize that I butchered the shit out of his first name, but Sacramento's got a couple of good parts here with this, and Sacramento, kind of rebounding and getting themselves back to, that playoff level is good for the NBA. Having, the Clippers and the Lakers go out and buy everybody else to be, to get to the playoffs is not.
No, it's not. It's not. And I zoned out there for a second. I think it's Domantas Sabonis. That messed me up when you said it like that. Sorry. But look, you did say something.
We remember who his famous relative is. He's not your
He's
Vetus.
not your
He's not
Vetus.
my
He's our
Vetus.
Vetus.
It's our Vetus.
Was that Kilborn?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. But in all seriousness, you said something during the Luka portion of this. Yes, the Lakers are the most recognizable brand in the world when it comes to the NBA. Them now tapping into Europe more than they have before is just going to grow the brand. What's it going to do for them internationally as far as what players they will be able to attract? That's going to be a different story. The Mavericks to me seemed like a European haven for years because of Dirk and then right to Luka.
Right.
So,
and then you've got the San Antonio aspect that you had, Duncan, Ginobili, Parker. Now you've got Wemby.
Yep. I will say this. and you can quote me on this. Victor Wembanyama will help De'Aaron Fox lead the Spurs to a championship before Luka Doncic even sniffs the finals in a Lakers jersey.
Oh, I could not agree with that statement more. And I love Luca.
I do too.
I know he actually had no part in this, but you figure if they're going to move someone, they're not going to move Kyrie because he's on the back end. They're not going to move Clay because he's got. I mean, he's. I still don't understand where this came from. This would be, the equivalent of the Cavs moving Mitchell. This would be the equivalent of, the Sixers moving Embiid. We're talking MVP potential. This actually, I think the only other move in the league that could have shocked us more than this would be Joker getting moved out of Denver for something that we never, ever would have imagined.
No, this is Jason Tatum getting moved out of Boston.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Because Joker out of Denver is going to happen because homeboy wants to play with his racehorses more than he wants to play basketball. So they're going to end up moving him at some point in time to try and get something for him before he decides to hang him the fuck up. So, yeah, this is more Jason Tatum out of Boston. For basically nothing when you think about it.
Right.
Because if AD's not healthy, doesn't matter what he could do. The best ability is availability, and unfortunately, Anthony Davis's availability has been dwindling year by year since the bubble championship in 2020.
Yeah, but look at the three big pieces of this move. AD, Doncic, and Markieff Morris. All three are out with injury right now.
Yeah, and that was the thing. The other thing I was kind of stuck on there is like, homeboy's hurt. Why are we doing this now?
Yeah, it's, Luka hasn't played since before Christmas.
Yeah, and let me say this. I said it before and I'll say it again. You can tell Mark Cuban is not in control of this franchise anymore. Because he hasn't been in control since before the Kyrie move, which you and I joked about, saying he's finally gotten bitten by the Shark Tank wannabe shit. This is bad. This is bad. And another coach is going to get the heave-ho is Jason Kidd.
Yeah, it's I agree with this. For me, the Fox one hurts a little bit more for how much I've been paying attention to the Kings in recent years, and especially just, blogging about this less than a week ago, with the fact that it's very, very favorable for him, contract wise, because he's next year will be the last year of his rookie supermax, and he's only on the hook for for $37 million. His contract only goes up $3 million from what it's at now. So you'd be able to pair, and San Antonio would still be in a very advantageous position to be able to re-sign De'Aaron Fox long term, who's just turned 27 at this point. So he's basically hitting his stride right now. He's actually having, last year was actually the best statistical year of his career, but his numbers are very close to that this year.
Yeah, Fox is having a great year. I will say this. I think De'Aaron Fox is the perfect fit in San Antonio for one reason, and that is Chris Paul is on the very back end of his career. And where De'Aaron Fox is the new point guard, where he's not the facilitator, he's the scorer. You let CP3 teach him how to facilitate and score like that? Oh, God, that team's unbeatable.
Look at where they sit right now. Sacramento is 24-24. They're sitting 10th in the play-in right now. They're tied with Golden State. They've lost 2 in a row. San Antonio is 4 games under 500, and they're sitting 2 games out of the play-ins. Hopefully this turns, San Antonio around, but I was hoping with the way that Sacramento's schedule lined up, they're only 2.5 games out of getting into the top 6 themselves, and had certainly all the talent to do it. But I understand that we see some wild, and crazy shit coming out, in the days leading up to, Thursday's deadline.
Oh, say the deadline's the end of the week, right?
Right.
Okay. So lots more to come on the NBA. Of course, we got the All-Star game coming up. We get the trade deadline we'll react to next week. But what do you say we get to topic 2? Because I see we're at 21 minutes already.
We shift from the NBA where we had silly season and we had another blockbuster on the ice. And actually, one of the two participants actually ended up making 2 deals with this as the Vancouver Canucks send JT Miller to the New York Rangers.
Didn't he come from the Rangers?
Originally, yeah. And there was a lot of talk here that this is what this Miller being moved out of Vancouver was not going to be any surprise. Him going to the Rangers was, because there was a lot of talk that he's had there's been a rift with star forward Elias Pettersson and him in recent weeks, to where sometimes, like, really outside of practices, they're not even talking to each other from what I've heard.
Jesus. That's bad for the team to begin with.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Steph's got a friend that she writes with that is big into hockey. And they saw it on TikTok. And Jim, it was like you and I having a conversation about the NHL. I follow enough to have the conversation with you. And to see with them two going back and forth about this trade, I got a fit of laughing. I'm not going to lie to you. It was hysterical. But I'm interested to see with this deal. And then if you go into, I'll have you go into specifics next. What was Vancouver doing this year? Where were they at in the standings again?
As I was on the NBA standings real quick.
I'm sorry.
Vancouver. No, you're good. Vancouver right now is actually sitting 5th in the Pacific Division at 56 points. They're actually only 4 points behind the Kings for a top 3 spot that would automatically get them into the playoffs. And if you look at the wild card standings right now, the Canucks going into action today are at 56 points, which is 1 back of Calgary for the last playoff spot in the West.
Okay. And the Rangers are dog shit, so.
Yeah, the Rangers right now are sitting at 54 points. They are currently 4 out in the East. They've actually slipped behind their rival, the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders, who just had their 6-game winning streak snapped today against Florida. And we had a heavy tilt earlier this week with Vancouver getting the Duke over Washington, and possibly a finals preview as the 2 best records in the NHL.
Yeah, no, I saw that they were playing, that Washington's been playing out of their mind, especially since Obi got back from the broken leg.
He's within 18 now. He's got 2 more since we came to you guys last.
Sorry. So really, where do you see this deal having its biggest effect? Is it in Vancouver on the West Coast, or is it in New York on the East Coast?
I'm thinking New York for this one, because now you're looking at the firepower that New York's running out there. So you add a guy like a JT Miller to that already potent lineup. Because with what they gave up, so the specifics rundown, it's forward JT Miller, defenseman Eric Brandstrom, and defenseman Jackson Dorrington going to the Rangers, and Vancouver ends up acquiring defenseman Victor Mancini, forward Philip Cheadle, who I thought was a very key component of this trade, and a 2025 first-round pick.
Okay. Which isn't going to be a high pick because both teams are playing well.
Yeah, it's and then, well, there's a key to this. Then Vancouver goes out later in the day and makes a deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins, where Vancouver sends forward Danton Heinen, defenseman Vinny Desharnais, forward Melvin Fernstrom, who's a prospect, and the 2025 first rounder they get from the Rangers now belongs to the Penguins, but it's a top 13 protected pick. And then Vancouver acquires defenseman Marcus Pettersson, no relation to Elias, and forward Drew O'Connor. Now, Pedersen's on an expiring contract, and so is O'Connor. For going to Pittsburgh, Heinen and Desharnais still have one more year left on their deals after this. JT Miller has 4 years left on a 7-year, $56 million contract extension that he signed with the Canucks in 2020. And Cheadle, going from the Rangers to Vancouver, still has 2 years left on a 4-year, $17 million deal that he signed back in 2022 with the Rangers.
So a couple of really controllable guys because of contracts and some expiring ones. Really, the majority of those going to Vancouver. Are they gearing up for a run, or are they trying to shed salary? What are they doing?
You're talking Vancouver?
Yeah.
Well, the Miller move I thought had to be made because you never want a rift between two of your stars. I'm sorry, from what I've actually been reading about this, it looks like that this is something eerily reminiscent of the Erik Karlsson deal if you remember in Ottawa a few years ago, where Karlsson begged to get out as soon as possible because of the way that I can't remember which one of his teammates, their wife started harassing Karlsson's wife. And that's where Karlsson then gets flipped to, it might have been San Jose. And then he goes from San Jose to Vegas and wins a cup afterwards. But it's eerily reminiscent of that you have the rift and then somebody gets moved immediately.
Yeah.
I actually, and if you're going to pick between them, I think wholeheartedly that you're going to move JT Miller instead of Elias Pettersson.
Especially when you probably have a willing trade participant in the Rangers trying to get JT Miller back. So I think there was that other added incentive, knowing it. Hey, they know the commodity and know what type of player he is. They know how good he is. Bring him home and let's shore up for a playoff run. Especially when you have Shesterkin under contract now for how many years did Igor sign up for?
Let me actually
7 or 8, wasn't it?
You know what? I knew you were going to ask that because I was actually trying to pull up the Rangers' salary breakdown. It's Spot Track sometimes this time of night gets a little bit slower. So, and especially now in the last couple of minutes. So now if you're the Rangers, you're running out there Artemi Panarin at 11.6 for this and next year. You've got Mika Zibanejad, who's 31, who's signed for 6 more years at 8.5. JT Miller is now signed through 2030 for 8 flat. Chris Kreider, you're still on the hook for 6.5. Vinny Trocheck is signed through 2029 at 5.6. And then you still have $9.5 million on the table for Adam Fox through 2029. And then Shesterkin signed through 2030 for 11.5. So the Rangers right now, their cap number is they've got two, and somehow, some way through all of that, they've got $2.5 million worth of space now, and that number increases to 18.3 next year with some of the expiring contracts they have. Because I'm looking at it right now, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 UFAs, and they've got 7 more guys that are RFAs after this season.
So they've got to go for it now.
Right.
They're not going to get it, but they've got to go for it now. What's in the fucking water these days, dude?
I mean, it's silly season. It's also hysterical that, you always have the NHL and the NBA trade deadlines. Typically, they're about a week apart. This year, they're 2 days apart.
What, the NHL's Tuesday?
The NHL's deadline's on the 4th. The NBA's is on the 6th.
Yeah, I'd say it was Tuesday, right?
So we're still there's a very good possibility in the next few days we could see even more moves. We saw this blockbuster with the Rangers and the Canucks. We saw 2 of them in the span of not even realistically for as long as we've been awake, because the Fox trade just got confirmed within the last 30 minutes, and then none of us knew about the Luka trade until we woke up this morning.
Yeah, that's why I said, what the fuck are the Lakers or the Mavs doing when we're asleep? But you know what? That's going to be fun next week, those 2 days. Um, I don't think Thursday's going to be crazy at all. Although you already see people tweeting out the picture of the Cavs lineup with LeBron in there instead of Max Strus at the 3, and you're like,
Well,
no.
that was another story that was brought up, that LeBron has already said that he wants to retire a Laker and he's committed to the Lakers through next season. So there was talk that he could possibly move, waive his no trade clause and move. He's, I guess he wants to stay. He's got his title in LA. The most important one he ever had was bringing one back to Cleveland, which he's already said. He had his 2 in Miami. So he's got his 4. He's certainly not going to get his 5th. He's got all of his MVPs. He's got his scoring record. His name will be retired. His jersey's going to be retired by 3 different teams. Name the last player, in NBA history who's really had that wasn't league wide.
We're getting 2 this year. That's Vince Carter, because he did Toronto and Brooklyn. Not that any that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, really outside of maybe somebody like, like a Nate Thurman or like an Oscar Robinson who had like a cup of coffee with a team for like a year. But we're talking like meaningful, tenure with a franchise where LeBron's going to be retired by Miami, Cleveland, and the Lakers.
I don't know about Miami. I don't know if they'll retire in Miami just to be spiteful.
I mean, he had 4 years and brought him 2 titles back to back.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just think Pat Riley's a spiteful, petty son of a bitch.
I completely agree, but I mean, who's to say, do we really think that Dan Gilbert's going to be spiteful enough where Kyrie's not going to have his number retired at some point?
I don't think Kyrie should have his number retired, but we've already said this. Kyrie wasn't there long enough, and he bitched his way out. So no, Kyrie does not deserve to have his number retired.
He did bitch his way out, but he had a Rookie of the Year. He had 5 years here. He was an all-star for many of them, and also hit the biggest shot in franchise history.
That's cute.
To date.
Yeah, to date. I think the next one's going to be either Donovan or Darius that are going to hit the big shot. As I lose my earbud because my ear itched.
As it was hilarious going back to the Mavs and Lakers here for a minute, just watching, the lineup that Miami rolled out there, where Miami led 6-3, and then, against the Cavs, and then the Cavs put up 51 points in the first quarter and 91 points in the first half.
Yeah, Dallas took an ass beating today.
Both franchise records, and then the Cavs also proceeded to go out there and launch up and hit 26 threes, which was also a franchise record, en route to a 45-point win.
Yeah, 43. It was 144-101. Yeah.
Half the arena was already empty midway through the, you could tell people were starting to leave like in the third quarter. They knew it. They knew it was over. Try to beat the snow and the traffic on a Sunday, out of downtown.
Halftime.
It was relatively hilarious.
I got to sit up. My back is killing me tonight. But yeah, no, it's the trade deadline week is going to be crazy. So what do you say we get to topic number 3, and we send the hat trick home in under? Can we do under 50 minutes?
We're going to try, because this one's going to be a little bit of fun. Recently in the media, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver made some comments that some people ruffled a few feathers, but it definitely got everybody talking, and not in a controversial fashion. As Adam Silver said that he would be a proponent of several different rule changes, which we'll talk about here, and then we'll actually open up the conversation going elsewhere here with something Mike and I talked about on my way home from work one night this week. But the big one that was mentioned was Adam Silver would not at all object to the NBA going to the international rules of going to 4 10-minute quarters.
I don't think. I mean, is that really a big deal?
I mean, for the way that these guys are getting paid, you look at international games, they're done in about 2 hours, which is what Silver said would be the reasoning behind it. The college game plays 40 minutes, the international game plays 40 minutes, for the NBA to kind of fall in line. If you think about it, he may not be that far off, because when you look at every other team sport that goes from juniors to college to pros, the timing is all the same. The NBA is the only one that changes. You go from 32 minutes in college to 40. I'm sorry, 32 in high school to 40 in college to 48 in the NBA. Football is always 15-minute quarters. You've got 9 innings in the in baseball. You've got it's still 60 minutes in hockey at every level.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it 20-minute periods in college as well as in
Yeah.
the NHL? I will say this. Obviously, is it 20-minute periods in high school too?
I want to say it's 4 8-minute periods.
Okay. But high school 7 innings with baseball. Obviously, you go to college, it's 9 innings. It's very interesting what he's proposing there. Now, with the influx of international players, the NBA players playing in the Olympics every year, as well as FIBA and all that other stuff, it's not going to be a huge of a deal. For how much these guys are making in the NBA, they should play as more time, personally.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because when I was thinking about the analogy and running everything down, the only difference that you actually have would be men's versus women's college basketball. It's still 40 minutes, whereas the women play 4 10-minute quarters and the men play
That's
2
right.
20-minute
20-minute
halves.
halves.
But it's still
Yeah.
a 40-minute game, and it's still over in about 2 hours, which is why you can cram 4 games. Now that we're into February, you'll be able to cram 4 games a day into an arena next month in college.
Yeah.
It's and how they're able to do it with Olympic and international basketball. Now, granted, some of those places will be in multiple different arenas, especially for Olympics. But I kind of like the idea, but you're going to get a lot of blowback from, people who are saying, it's the sanctity of it, the record books and everything. The records are all going to have to get changed. It's like, we saw this with the dead ball era in baseball. We saw this with the implementation of the shot clock. We saw, the difference in the NHL when we went to the expansion era. It's everything's changing right now. The NBA, there are certain records in football we'll never see broken. Are we ever going to, with the way that, passing is, predominant, is anyone ever going to come anywhere close to Emmett, Jim Brown, Adrian Peterson, any of these guys?
I doubt it. I just not sold in the 10 minutes for some reason. And it's not sanctity of the game or any of that stupid shit people run their mouths about. It's not. But at the same time, it's like you're getting out in 220 instead of 2. What's the big fucking deal?
Here's my thought on it. If they went to this, I think this passes with one reason and one reason only, and the Players Association would never go for it, is that if you go to 410s, you eliminate load management. Because then you've got no other reasoning, because these guys are playing 8 minutes fewer a night.
Oh, I'm now on board. Load management are the 2 worst words you can hear.
At least in basketball, yeah.
At least in basketball. Because if anybody's paying attention, and part of me thinks they're not, what are the Cavs' big 4 averaging as far as minutes a night?
With the way that Kenny's actually got that rotation set up, it's not nearly where it should be. I mean, it's certainly not where some of the other bigger stars are.
Exactly. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 40-9 in their first 49 games. None of their big 4 are playing 30-some minutes a game.
Right. Donovan's averaging 31.3, Darius Garland 30.3, Evan Mobley 30.1, Jared Allen 29 even. Ty Jerome is the sixth man, 18.8.
Yeah, that's load management. We'll go back to the next couple things. What Cleveland is showing is you can do load management and play every night if you needed to. Now, yes, the guys have taken some nights off, but there's also been injury concerns and what have you. But you can load management if you actually build a fucking roster.
And that's it. And that's the thing is that because when you looked at Cleveland, when Donovan got there, it was Donovan and Darius. And then, you still didn't know, you had Mobley as a rookie and you had Jared Allen, who was coming into being the star that he is now. So you really had one big piece, and then you had one big piece to pair with an all-star, and then you had two guys kind of working their way through. And now they've developed themselves into a big four where really nobody else out there can say that. And that's why this team is so good right now. You can kind of say the same thing about what's going on with Oklahoma City, that Shai is a once in a generational type talent at this point. And you pair him with the right pieces, and he's now made other guys better. And that team is cohesive enough to where you've got so many other stars around him that it's not just, it's not the LeBron type situation where it's LeBron and a whole bunch of other guys and maybe one or two other stars that really some of that they're not going to have their all-star caliber days when they were at their first employer, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I have never been, player development in the NBA has never been something that's been impressive to me because you get a year in college and you move on. The way the game has changed with the more ISO and one-on-one and no real defensive scheming anymore. What Kenny Atkinson has done, hand him coach of the year right now. End of story. What these four guys have done, first of all, I think there should be 4 All-Stars going to the Bay Area for Cleveland. Granted, we got 3.
No other
I think
team in the
Jared
league
Allen
has 3. Yeah.
That's because no one else in the league that's playing well is about more than one or two players.
Right.
So, so let's get off top, not to get off topic. What else is he talking about?
The other things that were actually discussed, Silver necessarily didn't say these, but there's been ideas that have been floated around because he actually says that something's really got to kind of change with the 3 points suggestions. So some of the ideas that have been floated is the first and foremost that any fouls made on a 3-point miss would now be reduced to 2 shots instead of an automatic 3.
It's not bad.
The second thing I actually saw was that they would eliminate the corner 3. So for all of you double dribble and fantasy and Family Guy, fans out there, So what the proposal would be is, as opposed to moving the line back, which they seem to do, and guys just, seem to chuck it up from the logo, what they would do is they would take the 3-point line from where it is at the top of the key a little bit further, and it would instead of going all the way to the baseline, it would make more of a natural arc and then stop midway through the bench.
So the corner would still be inbounds. It just wouldn't be a 3-point shot.
Right. So if here's basically the floor, instead of having the corner 3 and that space, instead of the 3-point line being somewhere in here, the 3-point line would be somewhere like midway through the bench. So it would be kind of a natural arc like this going all the way to the benches.
So basically it's the longer shots you're going to have to take, the one from the top of the key like that.
So
and then
you'd still have your wing 3. You'd still have your top of the key 3. But the corner 3 wouldn't actually be a thing because that's why, the shots are up and everything. And that's why everyone loves the corner 3 because of the rectangular shape of the court, it's the shortest 3 on the court.
Yeah, that I like. Granted, we root for a team that threw up 26, that drilled 26 of them today. I'll have to watch tomorrow morning when I go to work. That's my thing in the morning, dude. I'll put the that's the other thing the new Chromebook. Yeah, that's the other thing the new Chromebook came with. It actually came with a little stand that I can put the phone on.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry, but that's what I watch in the morning. Is I watch I'll listen to the boys at night, but I'll watch the next morning just so, because especially with you and I talking a lot of Cavs, I want to see how they're playing in rhythm, which again, can't really complain about this year.
Right.
In all essence, they'll be 41-9 in their first 50. If anybody's bitching about that, they need to shut up.
Well, that's the key though, is because who would be that 41st win? It's Tuesday night. The Celtics are in town.
Oh, yay. Beat their ass. And the boys will be, and the Celtics were in a dogfight today, and the boys are rested because they dropped 144 on the fucking Mavericks.
And basically sat. I mean, you could definitely tell that they went to the second unit, to the point where it was so funny. It's because of how many people were throwing up threes. Like Sam Merrill.
Jared Allen took 2.
Jared took 2. The crowd, for the second blowout win in a row, actually goaded Tristan into taking one.
Did they really?
It was a brick, and it wasn't even close. But it was hilarious because they were about the only 2 that didn't make one.
Can I just, and by the way, Sam Merrill led them in scoring tonight.
Yep.
But can I just say something? And I said this to you at the beginning of the year, and it's becoming more and more true as I watch this team play. Tristan Thompson was the right move. As that end of the bench, veteran presence, he just has more gravitas because that championship was in Cleveland. He can tell them the stories. He can tell them this is what it was. So, yeah, I think Tristan was the right move, and we're going to close up the hat trick, just talk about the Cavs a little bit. Other than the
real quick, 1 quick second, the last thing that they were actually proposing is keeping the 3-point line where it was, but then that arc that I was telling you about, they would actually install that about, like, I want to say a foot behind where the 3-point line would be now, and that would be a 4-point shot.
Don't do that shit. That's rock and jock basketball bullshit from the fucking 90s. Not a bad idea.
I mean, what next? Put the 25-point peach basket up above the shot clock?
I mean, there's nothing quite like watching Flea drill a 10-pointer win a game, but still.
Or, Flava Flav is basketball head.
The Clowns put out a thing. They put up all the people who broke the guitars.
Yep.
I didn't know Flavor Flav did one.
Yep. Stipe shirtless. Yeah, I saw that video. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Stipe shirtless, I think, was the most known thing that was going to happen.
On point, yeah.
Absolutely. It was nice to see Eric Metcalf. And
by
by the way, Couch looks like he'd go out and throw a few passes now.
Speaking of which, real quick, before we close this up and you finish up your last statement here, unfortunate news, Stipe related, that Cleveland State announced because of budget cuts that the women's soccer, women's volleyball, women's soccer, women's softball, and the wrestling team will all be cut.
God damn it. Speaking of college,
Stipe was a member of the Cleveland State wrestling team when I was there. He was a freshman. That team also had former UFC fighter Gerald Hurricane Harris as well. So two roster members from that team go on to the UFC.
We were talking about women's college athletics. Did you see what happened today?
Where Caitlin had her jersey retired and they got upset?
No. They beat USC.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I misread the headline.
Yeah, so Caitlin Clark, congratulations. Your jersey goes to the rafters in Iowa City. More than warranted. And then, of course, Iowa...
what took them so long? It should have been done the night after her last game.
Agreed. I will also say this. One thing you and I are going to get into the next couple of weeks. Have you seen the insanity that has been the WNBA offseason? We talked about the one last week when we hit with the breaking news when my girl got traded. But there's been more than that going on.
Yep.
And we will get into that in probably 3 weeks. Because, of course, next week it's Super Bowl preview. And then the show after that it's not a time for that stuff.
One, zero.
0-0. We should take a picture of ourselves holding that up like Wilt.
See, John, we did this before you got here.
Exactly. So, wait, my last thing on the Cavs, because we're at 51 minutes and I want to try and get this under an hour. I'm tired. But last thing on the Cavs. If they get win number 41 on Tuesday night going into the All-Star break, 2 weeks, right? Is the All-Star break?
I believe so, yeah.
So we're looking at the Cavs have Boston on Tuesday.
Because I think they got another one the night after, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Celtics, Cavs Tuesday. And then in Detroit, who did cheap shot artists, those fuckers are. So it's Celtics Tuesday, in Detroit Wednesday. Friday is in Washington.
Home to Minnesota on the 10th.
Home to Minnesota on the 10th.
At Toronto on the 12th, and then it's the All-Star break.
Okay. So here's Jim, are we looking at 44
and kudos to KT Krunderdunder, who's got the Pistons into sixth.
I fucking told you. I told you he was going to be a problem there.
Bigger surprise or better turnaround? San Antonio swinging the Fox deal, putting them in prime position and now get into the playoffs, or what KT Butterbrickle's done in the Motor City right now?
Well, JP Picklesucker is
Thank you. There's an OTR.
You got to do the whole thing because you went to 3 different names, and then I came off the top rope.
Oh, trust me, it'll be done.
But what he has done, I almost picked up another one. What he has done is exactly what I told you he was going to do. He was going to turn him around quick. He was going to have him playing tough defense, and he had something he didn't have in Cleveland. That was a bona fide offensive star. Detroit's going to be a fucking problem, but there's one problem with Detroit being a problem. The Cavs are fucking better.
Wouldn't actually it be hysterical to actually see the Cavs and the Pistons meet up in the playoffs? So you've got Kenny against RC Bucket Dunder. It's so
Rusty cunt bucket.
Oh my god. Oh, that's his name. We have to use that every time we bring up his name now. Every single time.
And I liked him, but man, what is it about right now that he's why is it that he couldn't make adjustments here and get them over the next hump to where he still can't make the same adjustments there and it's working, at least for now?
Because Cade Cunningham is a better scorer than anything he had in Cleveland until Donovan Mitchell.
And he still didn't make the adjustments with Donovan.
Yeah, but he didn't really. I think he learned to trust his bench more now that he's in Detroit. But it's amazing what he's doing. I got to give him all sorts of kudos.
I will too, but I will say if we meet up in the playoffs, to quote Miss Timeless Tony Storm,
And I'm gonna rip your tits off!
I just need a moment, James. I just need a moment.
Mike in deep thought.
Oh, she's watching. She's gonna be pissed at you now. Where is it? Where is it? You level up, my friend.
Twice.
Yes. Well, I
Actually,
leveled up
you
with
got one. Yeah.
with the pickle sucker, and of course you. Now I want to watch Rick and Morty. I mean, it's and with that, we will see you guys in 8 minutes for the blast and the second half of the show. And we're back.
For hour number 2 of 7.
Yep. I got to say, though, what I told you before, I was like, we should have done the whole thing over again. Like everybody's waking up, like Bill Murray.
Wait.
Don't mess with me, pork chop. What day is this? It's February 2nd. Groundhog Day. Yeah. I thought it was yesterday.
I told Steph that this afternoon. I was like, Jim and I should really start the second half of the show the way we used to open the show. She's like, what do you mean? I said, it's Groundhog Day. She rolled her eyes pretty hard, but I think she was on board for a little bit.
So that actually means when you go to bed tonight, you actually need to call her pork chop.
Okay. Valentine's Day is coming, and I have things planned I'd like to enjoy that evening. So, no.
Pork chops!
Dude, I'm probably going to shell out for dinner.
At least one of us will.
Because
I'm like so hypertensive right now. It's like, what am I allowed to eat?
Yeah, I hear you. But if I say things like that, it'll be
emotional damage.
So no. These work again. I'm telling you, the old one was on its way out.
I'm just doing it to be annoying.
You do it well, sir. You do it well.
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
On the topic of him, if you just like Matthew Perry, he did a couple episode stint on The West Wing years ago.
My mother's been bragging about that for weeks, but it's like I don't get into political dramas anymore.
You know what,
I never really did.
And neither did I. And then I was sitting through the first episode years ago. We didn't have cable or anything. We had videos, and my mother sent me the first season. And it's one of the better pilots you'll ever watch. Of course, it's Aaron Sorkin, so it's not like it's going to be bad,
Right.
He was writing this and Sports Night at the same time. And all of a sudden, Martin Sheen pops into a meeting, and you hear, I am the Lord your God. You shall worship no other God before me. And I was hooked. It's a great run. Listen, if it's something on a rainy day, if you're going to get into it, it's on, I don't know where you can stream it.
I mean, it's definitely something I could think about, here, especially with like all the guest stars and everything that there's been. But if I'm sorry, if I'm going to watch an Aaron Sorkin show, I'm going to watch Dan Rydell and Casey McCall live from New York.
Sports Night. Real quick, we just got into The Night Agent on Netflix. Good.
That's what I've heard.
Dude, it's really good. But in the hopes of not being here until February 3rd, what do you say we get to the blast?
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
It still stings, Jim.
A little bit less, especially now that, once the season starts, it's going to be like how we felt when Jimmy passed away. It still stung for multiple weeks afterwards, and the shitty football didn't help.
No, but we're going to get to part of that later on in the blast, aren't we?
Yeah, and we're definitely going to have to actually like talk some ideas of where they're going to go at 2 here, maybe with John next week.
I think that's a conversation we should have with Mr. Rice next Saturday night. But what we got in the blast tonight? All right, let's start with that one. Former MLB Commissioner Fay Vincent passed away earlier today at the age of 86. Rob Manfred put out a really nicely worded statement, which means Rob Manfred had nothing to do with it. Sorry. I can't. That douche nozzle. Listen, he was the last commissioner before Bud Selig. He was the guy who was thrust into the position when Bart Giamatti passed away shortly after the Pete Rose suspension. And he is the one who landed in the strike. He refused to bend. And that's why the owners kicked him out and appointed Bud Selig, who that's a show for another day.
As we maybe get closer to baseball season, especially with the fact that the inmates have run the asylum in baseball in recent years.
Well, I mean, they've only run the
Which
asylum because
which sport has the inmates run the asylum more of the big four?
baseball.
I'm going to
It's
say
the
the
most
NBA,
powerful.
but baseball is very close.
It's the most powerful labor union on the planet. Think about it. As good as the NBA labor union is, they have a salary cap. They have non-guaranteed contracts. Well, at times, they have a profit sharing setup that pales in comparison to what Marvin Miller started years ago with the MLB Players Association. Yeah, no, this is definitely it's definitely Major League Baseball, only because of the power of the labor union, not so much because of any kind of influence any one player has. But yeah, no, I'll say baseball. It's like 1 and 1A, and the one that has the least amount of pull is the NFLPA.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, baseball, we all know that um, the salaries have gotten out of control more than any other sport out there, and
Mhm.
and it's not even close. Um, but I gotta think with the NBA, with the way that you actually see guys forcing their hands, moving out of teams, you know, co-conspirating with each other. Now, granted, you got 26 guys, on an active hockey roster. You've got 53 guys active during an NFL game. You've got, you know, 30 some odd guys in baseball and when they expand the rosters to 40. You've only got 12 guys you can dress on a given night in the NBA and no more than 18 guys under contract, that actually can play at that level between two ways and
Yeah.
everything.
Now, I'll say this. The NBA, you see that more often because of the structure of the game. One player can take over an entire game. You don't really see that in baseball anymore. The starting pitchers don't go the distance anymore. The last time you saw a starting pitcher take over a team was newly enshrined Hall of Famer CC Sabathia when he went to Milwaukee in 2008.
Or maybe um in more recent memory like a Tim Lincecum or a Clayton Kershaw. But we're not going to see those guys. We're not going to see stuff like that really anymore.
No, we're not. And when CC did it, CC was taking the ball every third or fourth day, or fourth or fifth day. I'm sorry, he was either 3 days rest or 4 days rest, and he was going the distance. Not so much anymore. So I mean, it's a lot different now. But also, if you think about it, with what ESPN has done and basically taken Major League Baseball out of their talking points, these guys are under a lot more stress to win championships, to be a part of something like that, to even have any kind of legacy. Look what it pushed KD to do. Look what it pushed LeBron to do. So I think it's more about what they're up against as opposed to the inmates running the asylum.
Um, sad. The sad news about Faye Vincent, but actually, depending on how you think of it, positive news. It not for us Cleveland fans, but longtime Indians slash Guardians the studio host Jensen Lewis will not be back with the team this year, as he's actually now taken a national job in Las Vegas for 2025.
Really?
Yeah, so it'll be the all of the it'll you're still going to have um Underwood, Arch, and Andre, and now there's still a lot of talk that it's still going to be taken over by MLB, but because they were one of the teams that were not renewed by Bally when FanDuel basically bought them out. Um, it's still interesting to see what's going to happen with that. and where they're going to be broadcast for this year, how that's going to work. But it's still something that's in progress, and there will be more news because it's not only just the Cleveland connection for both of us being Cleveland fans, but there's still several other teams that are involved with this. I believe the Twins are one of them too.
I think San Diego's in on it too.
Yeah.
So that'll be when we do our baseball preview. Hey Jim, that's a week from Wednesday, or 2 weeks from Wednesday. Or yeah, week from Wednesday.
Pitchers and catchers. Yep.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. I become a different human.
There's a really, I need to set some time aside probably on Wednesday and finish watching it. But the latest momentum video, that how they're taking applications for people to sign up. One of the guys was from the Bananas from the last couple of years. He doesn't have much of a personality, but what they were doing is the whole crew was building their own baseballs to use in a game.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
From scratch. So like Trevor made one out of a basketball. Like he cut up a basketball.
Really?
But they're only allowed to make one ball, and it's got to make it through a full inning. And then Marika made 3.
Of course she did.
So she made like a rubber ball. She made, I can't remember what the second one was, but then she also like was looking around the office and found like some Ferrero Rocher at Hobby Lobby or something, and she went and made a chocolate ball, and people were calling her Moorika.
That's messed up.
As opposed to last week when I showed you that video, when you watched the video that I suggested to you where they were going to call her Molrika.
Sim has got to realize that, I know he goes home to his wife and kid, but a lot of people only watch because she's good looking, and he needs to knock his shit off.
It's also for the fact of she's one of the guys, and how far can she push his buttons, because she pushes him further than anybody else there.
Yes.
That he tolerates.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So, Jim, last night was how many of these have they done? It's got to be 30.
It's got to be up over 30 by now.
So the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I want to say the first one was 88. So yeah, 27, 28 now.
Yeah. No, 37 or 38. Dude.
Yeah. I did not watch it, but I watched a bunch of highlights of it.
I also did not watch it, did watch some highlights. I see someone's name was mentioned.
Yep.
Which we called, by the way.
So Charlotte Flair made her return after nearly a year off, won the Women's Royal Rumble in the worst book decision of our lifetime in there. So, which actually means now she's either going to go on to face Rhea Ripley or Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania. And I was thinking about this before we went live. If she beats Rhea, that means she'll have taken the belt off of, she'll have taken the NXT belt off of Rhea, and also taken the world title off of Rhea, both at WrestleMania, coming out of the Rumble after winning the Rumble. And if she goes after Tiffany Stratton, she's basically squashing their hottest young commodity, because she's going after her daddy's record.
Well, I mean, keep it in the family. And speaking of keeping it in the family, Jey Uso wins the men's version of the Royal Rumble. Yeet.
In a bit of a stunner, I thought.
Well, it was him and Cena at the end, right?
Right.
Yeah. I thought for sure. I think what they're setting up is Cena and Punk at WrestleMania.
I'm thinking Punk's going to go a different direction here. I still think Cena might get his shot, because I think they're going to run Jey Uso against Gunther because of how well that came off on Saturday night's main event. And, you know, that he goes from mid-card to main event, you know, after hinging in mid-card and playing Roman Reigns' lackey for all these years. And I think he's ready, even though people got to remember last year at WrestleMania against his brother, it was the worst match of the entire weekend. So he's got to step up a little bit here.
Yeah, I think it's the Gunther angle too. I think Cody is going to end up. He's not going to wrestle Cena for the belt.
Sami Zayn.
You think it's going to be Cody and Sami Zayn?
I'm thinking Sami Zayn wins the Elimination Chamber.
And whoever Jay doesn't pick, Sami gets. See, that's why I think Punk's going to wrestle Cena at WrestleMania, because of Punk's going to cost him the Elimination Chamber. And that's something, because at that moment when it was Punk, Cena, and Roman in the ring at the same time, that was a pretty cool moment.
It was, but where I'm thinking here with this is that Jay and Sami, like outside the ring, are like, very, very tight. They're not exactly like they're great friends, but they're not best friends like Sami and Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, are. That could we see maybe like an Eddie and Benoit scenario where the two guys who never thought that they were big enough to win the big one both win the big one at Mania?
Possible. It's very possible.
Did you see the drama that came out of the men's rumble that was not part of the storyline?
I did not. I mean, the only thing I saw was it Speed? What's his name's friend?
Yeah. Speed.
He came out, and Braun Breaker broke him in half.
That was fucking wonderful.
It was.
But ironically enough, it indirectly involved Speed's boy. The rumor running around is that Drew McIntyre, after being eliminated, was furious and like swearing up a storm backstage that he got dumped when he did because somebody had to, quote, get their moves in. And even though there was a scene where basically he was where LA Knight was a little too close to him, at that time, right before Drew got eliminated, there's a lot of people that are thinking, because there's unconfirmed reports that McIntyre was not the only guy who said that. McIntyre was the first guy to actually come out and say it, and then he left the arena in a huff afterwards. But a lot of people apparently are taking umbrage with Logan Paul.
You mean more than usual?
More than usual.
Okay, that's a different animal. I'd love to see Drew McIntyre beat the fuck out of him.
I honestly, from what I saw and read and everything, the Women's Rumble crushed it, minus the ending. Because look at the debuts you had. Jordan Grace officially joining WWE, put on a really good showing. Roxanne Perez, the NXT champion, the former NXT champion, went a women's record 67 minutes after coming in at number 3 and was eliminated by Charlotte to end it. And a return 2 years in the making.
Alexa Bliss,
the goddess.
Did you see the jacket?
Hop. Oh, the jacket and everything. So she had on a Fiend Forever jacket, came out with the Lily doll that was inspired by Bray Wyatt's Firefly Funhouse. She and Wyndham Rotunda were very, very close with the way that they had worked together, in the last few years before Wyndham got sick and unfortunately passed away. And what an absolute, she had the loudest pop of the night, and it just kept going from what I saw.
Yeah, she looked very Harley Quinn inspired.
Very much so. And I'll tell you this much, for 2 years off and also having the kid and everything, she's always been a very attractive woman. She looked in phenomenal shape, considering there were not a whole lot of reports of when she was going to come back. People were talking, could it be a contract? Could she actually be looking to have another kid? Trish came back, last night in the Rumble and looked fantastic for 51. I believe her. She's got to be, she's, how old is Trish?
I just need to see her. I didn't see much of the
49. She just turned 49. And she brought out some of the gear that she wore when she originally debuted as a manager with TNA, Test and Albert, way back when. Jordan Grace looked fantastic. Girl got herself glammed up on her first day, signed to WWE because her contract expired with TNA. on January 31st. Speaking of TNA, I can say his name, but I'm not going to play the song. Michael, he made his Rumble debut last night.
Joe Hendry in the Rumble.
Lasted for 2 minutes, and then they kicked him out.
Well, yeah, I mean, Roman speared him. Which we all saw coming. Yeah, Joe Hendry was in there less, and I thought it was great when the way the place went crazy when his music came on.
The way
I
that
think
everybody was singing along to
Mhm.
the theme song. And I gotta say, I hate the idea that, they've got the TNA partnership for the next 5 years, and then that's what you do to the TNA champion. But I do like the fact that they actually indirectly mentioned Dolph Ziggler, although they mentioned him by his real name, Nick Nemeth, that he wrestles in TNA, who was the champion that Hendry took the title off of. How weird would it be with this possible crossover to see Nick Nemeth on his real name showing back up in a WWE ring after being with that company for 17 years and unceremoniously shown the door 2 years ago?
Well, I think because Vince is gone, that's an option. Because listen, Ziggler was great, but I'm interested to see where else they go with this with TNA. Are we going to see a TNAer get headline match not a main event, but a headliner match at WrestleMania? With a crossover, something comes out of, not this year, obviously, because it's not going to happen, but you get I'll use Joe Hendry as an example. Say Roman misses a spear, Joe Hendry eliminates Roman calls out Joe Hendry, and they wrestle at Mania.
Right.
It's a heck of a storyline. And I wouldn't put it past Triple H to do something like that because he understands the storytelling better than Vince ever did in his later years.
Because Hendry would be the one that actually would be the outlier right now, because Jordan Grace was your dominant champion and then lost it to Masha Slamovich.
Yep.
Fantastic name. She could definitely cross
Yeah.
over. You could probably see her on NXT for a little bit. At Mania, probably not. Their tag champions are all over the place anymore. Nemeth certainly could be a possibility showing back up as a crossover here with this, but Hendry's the one that's got that star power, and I completely agree, and I like the idea of him possibly having Mania, because I don't think TNA's got a massive show, because I want to say Slammiversary for them is May or June. So it would be a perfect opportunity for some of those guys. If it's not on Mania, certainly with the NXT takeover that happens really that weekend, like the night before that they put them inside a 20,000 seat arena. I mean, they're going to be I'm trying to remember where Mania's in Vegas, which means they're going to be putting them in T-Mobile where the Knights play.
Yep. By the way, Indianapolis showed out. Great event there. That was at the arena? That wasn't at Lucas Oil.
No, that was Lucas Oil.
Was it Lucas Oil? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw Tyrese Halliburton was there. Of course, he goes to those anytime they're in Indianapolis, as was Indianapolis's favorite son on the commentary and not in the Rumble like he was last year, which was the dumbest fucking thing I ever saw when he was in the Rumble last year.
Yeah.
Although Michael Cole and Cody Rhodes crowd surfing Friday night was actually quite funny.
Which is so weird considering how I bagged on their booking for years and refused to watch the product. I was thinking about this. I'm watching a little bit more of the product. I certainly won't watch it as much up until Mania because of how played out it's going to be. It's just because the whole Roman and the whole nepotism thing with that whole fucking family turned me off for
Agreed.
years. And, is Cody going to get fed to one of those guys, this year, if it's not Sammy? But it's like, I would love to see Jay get that, but yet remember just a few years ago, both Uso brothers, we were like, they should have been fired for like multiple DUIs.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, they did that with the Hardys and put them on indefinite suspension. Yet these guys, just because, their cousin is Roman and The Rock, they keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed after their suspension and their legal issues are resolved. But I mean, good on that. I'm interested to see Is Alexa back full time? Is she more? I don't want to say if is she going to be sporadic with this, because now there's also there's a lot of talk that big time Bex is due back very soon after signing her contract at the end of last year, and that would be Becky Lynch. Especially now that they've got young kids, but then again, you also figure those are really about the only mothers that are there. Jade Cargill's been off for a while, and everyone's now saying Jade Cargill and Jordan Grace, two powerhouse muscle mommies. It's like, how great would that be? It's like, it wouldn't. One can wrestle and one's trash.
Yeah. Just on skill, she's not on the level of really. I mean, Alexa Bliss put on a good show last night, and she was dominant when she was there. Becky Lynch, the man.
Which is hilarious because Lexi Kaufman, her real name, is 5 foot, 105 pounds, and basically was hitting people. And this is, but you could definitely tell with what she was putting in there after 2 years off. It's like she had more power than Nia Jax.
Well, they say that the whole mom thing changes you.
Coolest thing for me, I thought, was Jordan Grace deadlifting nearly 250-pound Piper Niven. That was awesome.
I didn't see that. That's impressive.
Was really cool if you get a chance to go see that, just because of just the crowd shock and awe. Because remember last year when Jordan came out in the Rumble, McAfee goes, "Cops are here." And I just love all the streamers reacting because she's got the Scott Steiner siren at the very beginning, the police siren.
That's right.
All the streamers were going, are loving it, and they're losing their minds because she's now officially signed to WWE. So now I just can't wait to actually see, is she going to start in NXT? Is she going to go straight up to main roster? When can I actually get my Lil Mama Pump shirt?
She gonna mix tag with her cousin?
I don't know if he's allowed to wrestle anymore after his heart issues.
Braun?
She could with Braun.
Who's the other one?
I mean, I was actually thinking, both the Steiners.
Yeah, Braun is Rick's kid,
right?
And she's Scott's, right?
God damn you!
I'm not as into it as you are, and I know this shit.
The chainmail just doesn't work, though, because obviously the girl had her hair done did. I mean, she looked really good. And typically when you see a woman that jacked, they don't look feminine. She looked stunning last night, just with everything that she had done and the reaction that she got, and and just her playing back to the crowd, and people knew who she was. She's got megastar written all over her now that she's under the umbrella.
Absolutely.
I think they've got a chance to do everything right with her. That I don't want to say that they screwed up with Jade Cargill, because Tony Khan didn't really do that with Jade Cargill, because Jade Cargill's heart has never been in this.
No.
Jade Cargill's been doing this for 5 years and has shown, and is actually worse.
Yeah, you've mentioned her in the negative several times when we do wrestling spots on the show. So listen, the Rumble sets up Mania. We got when's Elimination Chamber? Next month?
Next month, and Mania is going to be very early. It's typically, I want to say it's like first week of April.
Yeah. I like the 2-night format, by the way.
I do too. The only thing I could, because I was thinking about this, SummerSlam was 2 nights here over the summer. Mania was 2 nights. You can't really do 2 nights of Survivor Series. It's not big enough. Could we see the Royal Rumble expand out like the college football playoff, to where now you open it instead of 30? Do you open it to 50 and make it a 2-night thing?
I think you still do a 2-night thing if you leave it at 30, because you do a decent part of the card You can expand the singles and tag matches, and at the end of Saturday night, you would do the women's rumble. You have your bigger card Sunday, and at the end of Sunday, you have the men's match.
I mean, I do actually like now that we've got 2 rumbles. So now, realistically, 75% of your roster is getting a paycheck at some point.
Exactly.
I mean, Maxine
Exactly.
Dupree, who has shown fantastic, progression in the last couple of years, was really brought in as a model. She's stunning. She actually had one of the more entertaining spots of the night, and is still going out there and getting a big time Big Four paycheck for about 5 minutes worth of work. And
Hey,
big things are on the horizon for her. Alexa getting that big paycheck. She didn't really need it. Charlotte getting the big payoff. But a lot of these people that you don't really see on TV all that often, they're out for 5-10 minutes. They do their thing. They get their spot in. But it's like it's got people talking now.
exactly. Exactly. And one thing Triple H has done since he has taken over for Vince with all the creative is he has made it better. He's made it a better product. Um, and again, kudos to, I know you and I talked about it on the phone, but kudos to him when they were talking about the upcoming WWE Hall of Fame inductions, that The Undertaker and HBK actually broke in, interrupted, and said that he will go in as a singles performer. He's already in as a member of DX. James, as like Caitlin Clark's jersey, long overdue.
Yeah. And I was actually like sitting back thinking about this. Ironically enough, Thursday, getting ready for work, or Friday when I found out I was working from home. I'd like to be able to sit in a room with both, Paul Levesque and Stephanie McMahon, and just kind of pick their brain as to, Stephanie's been around this business now, because remember, she's our age. She's a year older than me. Where has Paul Levesque gotten so many things right, transitioning from wrestler to front office guy, that a lot of the other guys, and it's not to slam Jeff Jarrett for starting up TNA and everything, and it's still going strong, even though he's not been really attached to that product for years. But where has Paul gone right where everybody else had it going right and then came up short? Where did
My
his
observation,
compliment come from? Not even so much dating and marrying the boss's daughter, and then the seemingly unlimited payroll that they have, but what triggered his mind to think that it's gone so much better than anybody else?
my opinion is you're talking about a guy who sat in on all the production meetings when he was one of the main guys. The Attitude Era was some of the best storytelling I've ever seen in sports entertainment. Think about all the different angles we had. Speaking of, we had Kurt Angle, who had feuds with The Rock, with Stone Cold, with The Undertaker, with Triple H. You had a mid-card guy like Rikishi all of a sudden in championship matches and being
After running over Austin, yeah.
And just being a menace. You had The Undertaker with the unreal streak, and then go from the Phenom to the American Badass back to the Phenom. You had the whole thing with Kane and the Brothers of Destruction. You had The Rock being The Rock. I mean, come on, Mick Foley is in any other time and space, is Mick Foley a big name? You had the return of HBK. I mean, the Attitude Era just took it to another level. That's why they won the Monday Night Wars.
And if you think about it, Triple H was he was the least liked guy in the clique.
Yes.
He was always the guy. He sat in on those meetings. It's because Sean was throwing his weight around, and then, Scott and Kevin were already gone to WCW with Sean Waltman by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, him sitting in on those helped, but it's like, what triggered him going from that, going from the odd guy out, Sean Hurts is back. He actually now reforms DX, stays mid-card for years, goes to main event, is a 14-time world champion, has to step away, transitions himself into front office, gets forced into retirement, and has now got the product in the next boom that, like, the boom now is even bigger than it was, let's say, maybe 5 years ago when we had the resurgence, when Cena was on top before Cena actually went to part-time.
I will
And
say,
the
I
product
think,
was stale for PG-13, but it was on a much, much grander scale that everybody was able to watch it.
yeah, I think where he did right, where others did wrong, is he stayed loyal to wanting to tell a story. Everybody else wanted to tell a gimmick. He's wanted to tell a story. And, I heard someone say this to me years ago. Professional wrestling is the male soap opera. They ain't wrong.
Right.
And Vince, in his later years, in his stupidity, got away from the storytelling and tried to go back to gimmicks like the 80s were. You can't do that now. People are too hooked on stories, especially the adults who grew up on the Attitude Era, which was nothing but storytelling.
And also people, everything's out in the public now. So it's like you can't run, Hogan out there and not expect him to be booed out of the building on your biggest TV broadcast possibly in history with the Netflix debut.
They did that shit on
Everyone's
purpose.
smartened up.
They did that shit on purpose.
They
Guaranteed.
they did. But kind of moving one we're going to talk one more thing about the product here, and it's going to tie into something else that we're going to bring up in the blast here. But very quickly, that Hawks smoke and then get smoked. The Hawks set a franchise record back on Thursday, scoring 7 seconds into they score 7 seconds into their game against the Florida Panthers, lose 5-1.
Wait. They scored 7 seconds in the game. And the next 59 minutes and 53 seconds, they didn't score. Isn't that just ducky?
Couldn't have happened to a nicer team.
Alex, we hope you're feeling better, but we're going ham on your team right now.
Deservedly so.
Yeah.
So we know we're not getting out of here in under 2 hours. We kind of, because of how long we went with that. Mike, your turn.
Oh, yes. In a shocking move, the Cleveland Browns have made a trade with the Baltimore Ravens, acquiring punter or kicker Justin Tucker for hush money and draft picks. As Justin Tucker is now the vice president of the Deshaun Watson Dirtbag of the Month Club. I mean, you can't make this shit up. And his statement just said, "I'm a scumbag," left, right, and center. Speaking of Billy, did you see the Minions thing I sent you on Instagram?
I did, but did you see now that there's video apparently surfacing, I guess, of him kissing his girlfriend goodbye?
It's on TikTok.
And he's not wearing a boot.
He's not wearing the boot. Couldn't have happened to a dumber motherfucker.
So there's a like one of those YouTube shorts. There's one that I've actually started following a little bit more because she talks, some sports stuff.
I shared it to you
Yeah.
on Facebook. Yep.
So she's, if the Browns really wanted to, they could actually try and pull the metadata from when that video was created. Was that before or after he retore that? And if it was after, they could conceivably go after, Watson with the help of the NFL to void this contract.
Yeah, and they really need to look into it. Because the Cleveland Browns are at a crossroads. A bigger crossroads than they've ever been since they're
anything for 5 more weeks, because it's exactly 1 month after the end of the Super Bowl. So 5 weeks from tonight, they actually can do whatever they want to.
Yeah, and the big thing is the Browns are at a bigger crossroads than they've ever been since 1999. You are now infringing upon the end of the prime of, quite possibly, no disrespect to the first iteration of the Browns, the most talented defensive player this franchise has ever seen. You ruined Nick Chubb. You
He
ruined.
didn't really ruin Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, unfortunately, had a horrific injury that we know he's never going to recover from and be the form that he was.
Yeah, but still, when I say ruin, I don't mean the injury. I mean the talent level and how far you could have gone with better personnel decisions. So you've ruined Myles Garrett, you've ruined Nick Chubb, you've ruined Denzel Ward, you've ruined plenty of other players, and now you're setting up another generation to be just dog shit. They need to get rid of him as fast as possible. And in the coming weeks, you and I will discuss more draft stuff in depth because I think they're going to make a move and it's going to hurt them more. Because I think they're going to take a quarterback at 2, and it's stupid. And it is stir crazy fucking stupid.
The only one of any of the quarterbacks that are talked about at the top of the draft, I'm now, you hear Cleveland radio talking about that Dion might be now open to Shedeur coming here. First of all, it's not his call. He can't dictate that. He can't dictate where his son's going to go play.
Tell that to Archie Manning.
I agree with that, but Dion's tied to an NCAA team. Arch wasn't.
True. Dion's got a gold jacket. Archie doesn't.
Right, but he can't force influence over that at the collegiate game because then there's tampering involved, and now he runs the risk of not only whatever team Shedeur gets picked by getting a hefty fine. You also now look at the NCAA looking at tampering to where Colorado is facing steep penalties.
I don't think Colorado would face anything because this is a father. This isn't a coach.
It's still tied to his player.
It's tied to his kid, though. It's a great. I see what you're saying. It because of the situation now. If he was pushing Travis, what's his last name? Travis Hunter. Dude, I'm tired. This is bad. Now, if he was doing that for Travis Hunter, I could see that being a problem. It's the same kid. It's his kid. It's a different animal. I see what you're saying. You're 100% right. Let's put it this way. If Ryan Day was doing something like this for Will Howard or for Ibuka or one of those guys, yes, you're absolutely right. That should be investigated and fined and dealt with. This is his kid. It's just a different animal. But going back to the 2 scumbags on the list there, did you read Tucker's statement?
I did not.
He admitted this has been going on all season, and it hurt his performance. You basically just admitted you're a fucking piece of trash. So the Baltimore Ravens now, could they be the most crime-ridden franchise?
It's certainly a possibility. And, the hilarity is that Justin Tucker, he doesn't have the Super Bowls that Vinatieri or Vander Jag or really any of those guys were. But arguably, he's got the distance record. He's the most accurate. He's been the most consistent kicker in the last 5 years of any kicker in history. And could his character basically keep him out of the Hall of Fame for an extended period?
Most likely. I sent this picture out. I don't know if you got it, but from top left to right, it's Ben Roethlisberger, AB. I think that's George Pickens, Deshaun, Ray Lewis, Ray Rice, Mixon, and Tucker. It says the AFC North is a real-life prison league.
Yes, I did get that.
Okay, good. Here's the thing. The guy who admitted his guilt, apologized, and went through all the process is the only one there who isn't playing anymore.
Yeah.
We talked about this with the boys when Deshaun came in. Kareem Hunt did a fucked up thing. Kareem Hunt felt took responsibility, felt real kickback, and lost a lot. That's why, we could get behind him. This dude has never apologized. At least Tucker's taking responsibility. The other motherfucker, he's stupid. He's just stupid.
Because you figure, look at those names. Roethlisberger denied for years and then
Mm-hmm.
settled out.
Mm-hmm.
Watson deny, pay off.
Settle out. Mm-hmm.
Lewis denied for years and then admitted he had he was witness to it, but still was in the middle of his career when he
Mm-hmm.
did it. And that's actually what helped him get to the Hall of Fame. And also, the fact that he was a borderline Super Bowl MVP when they beat the Niners that year.
Yeah.
Tucker's at the very end of his career at this point. So he's really got no chance to really go out and put on a clinic to be able to get people to kind of forget about this a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think the reason people have forgotten, and forgotten's the wrong word, move past with guys like Kareem Hunt. And I use Kareem as an example because I don't know if you can handle making a horrific decision in 1 second, if you can handle it any better to get back in good graces with people than Kareem did. We all know he only got his second chance because John Dorsey was his GM in Kansas City, and he was with the Browns. But he's been a model citizen. And now, fingers crossed, is the only player I hope wins on Kansas City it's him. Because he's missed out on these Super Bowls because of that one very, very stupid decision.
Right.
But as far as it also wouldn't shock me if with their kicker issues, they did try and sign Justin Tucker now. It wouldn't. Haslam doesn't care about your record. He just wants the record on the field.
Probably going to break off Dustin Hopkins because considering he can't hit anything right now.
He couldn't hit Lake Erie if he fell out of a fucking boat.
I mean, maybe. I mean, he'd actually have to be pointing out towards the break wall to do it.
I mean, absolutely. But if he had to do it at Edgewater Park, he'd miss.
Or Menor Headlands, yep.
Or the Headlands, exactly. So, James, it is at 1:54.
One more thing here. We actually
said
we were going to come back to WWE for a second. Update actually came out very late yesterday and a little bit more earlier today. Do you remember the lawsuit that was filed against Vince McMahon by
Brock Lesnar's been named in it now?
Brock Lesnar has officially been named in a revised suit filed by former Vince McMahon employee Janelle Grant. And that's why some people were thinking Lesnar was going to come back. And then there was an unconfirmed wrestler that was named in the original report. There's been back and forth with this. There's been talk of dismissals at this point, and now it's been reamended, and Lesnar has been put in by name. So so until this officially gets settled, we will never see Brock Lesnar's face again.
I don't think we're going to see Brock Lesnar's face at all ever again. Anyway, I think he's run his course. I don't think Triple H is going to want that kind of smoke in his newly rebuilt WWE. So, Jim, we're at 1:55. I think it's be time for band practice, sir.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator, the final segment of the night and the best segment of the night. As per usual, James and I give each other names inside and out of the sports world, and we come up with the first thing that pops into our head, whether that be word or sentence. As I have given up on going back and giving some of the more memorable editions for the YZ Chronicle that comes out before every translator. Just a reminder, I have no idea what in the hell is going to come out of his keyboard. James, if you would.
Yeah, 3 cheeseburgers, 2 large fries, 2 chocolate shakes, 1 large Coke. And some flapjacks. Too early for flapjacks?
Truth be told, everybody, my wife and I were talking this weekend, and I kind of went into it a little bit before the blast. What I wanted to do was open the show. Normal. It was my turn to open it. And then after halftime, come back and do the whole thing over again. Like we were in the
We've been here until 1 a.m. And both you and I are hitting the wall. You're tired. You're chugging caffeine. I'm on meds that are playing with me right now.
Hold on. This was in the first half of the show. Oh, but it is incumbent upon me to give James the first name of the night. And Jim, we're going to go to basketball. And I am going to give you the name. The name for you tonight, sir, is Dallas Mavericks general manager Nico Harrison.
You can flip a coin. Is it possible that that coin's going to land on its side when ownership decides who's going to get fired first for making this move? Because now you've gone, full rebuild and you've basically traded away the cornerstone of your franchise and a top 10 player for bruised magic beans.
Let's say squash magic beans.
I mean,
here's one for you.
Davis has still got a little bit left.
Yeah.
Not nearly as much as Luka.
No. Do you want to know what the center or the power forward, what the center/forward 1 and 2 guard 3-man rotation was for the Dallas Mavericks in 2022? Porzingis, Luka, and Jalen Brunson.
And Brunson is now in New York.
Showing out. Luka's with the Lakers, and Porzingis won a title in Boston against Dallas. We can tell Mark Cuban is not running this team anymore. Agreed. Who you got for me?
Michael, your first name in the YZ translator tonight, staying with basketball, but going a little different direction. Somebody who we're probably going to see in the NBA next year, who had himself a hell of a debut in a rivalry game last night. I'm talking about Duke freshman and projected number 1 pick, Cooper Flagg.
If he talks shit, he's Larry Bird 2.0. This kid is insane. Insane. He is so fucking good. And to drop the hammers like he did last night against North Carolina in that game, the fuck.
Longest winning streak in the nation right now at 14. Michael, there are several teams that are running 13-game winning streaks. Can you name one of them?
Is it UConn?
Because Marquette beat the hell out of them. I know.
Yeah,
I'm
honestly, I have been watching with pride the men and lady Buckeyes, but outside of that, I haven't been watching much because I've been all Cavs all the time.
The Cleveland State Vikings are at 13 consecutive wins, having beaten the second place Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons in a come-from-behind win the other night and extending their already school record 13 consecutive wins. They are 2.5 games up in the Horizon League as we are now into the final 10 games of the regular season for most college basketball programs.
That is phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal.
There are only 6 teams in the country right now running double-digit winning streaks, and 5 of them are in the top 20.
That's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. James, I have to don a different headwear for this next one. And Jim, your second name is newly minted Las Vegas Raiders offensive coordinator and former offensive coordinator of the 2024 national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, Chip Kelly.
Nobody else in the college game was going to come calling. He's not good enough to get an NFL coaching job again. And all we need now is Steve Sarkisian to jump from Texas to that division, and we'll basically have the entire Pac-12 coaching staff in that division at some point. And the Raiders need all the help they can get, and that's what you pull.
Yeah. Now listen, Chip Kelly was a very good offensive coordinator when he finally got his head out of his ass. But I think he'll be good with Pete Carroll, depending on who they have under center. I don't think the guy they have there now or the mullet are going to be any good, so they're going to draft a quarterback. Did you watch it last night?
You're expecting a national championship winning offensive coordinator who basically choked with every great look that he ever had at a head coaching position between Oregon and Notre Dame and everybody else.
Well,
and
hold on.
And
Notre Dame was Brian Kelly.
You're going to throw him to the Raiders, who are running out Aiden O'Connell.
They're going to bring in a quarterback. What I'm saying is, first of all, Brian Kelly was Notre Dame.
Brian, Chip, but neither one of them won shit.
No, but Chip at least got to a national championship game. He was with Oregon when they lost to Auburn. And then he went to the Eagles.
If you ain't first, you're last.
I agree. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he's had mild success. But he's a better coordinator than he is a head coach. Plain and simple. There's a reason he left UCLA, because he knew he'd be better as one and not the other. Who you got for me to wrap it up there, bud?
Michael, I'm going to have a little bit of fun, and it's sitting on the theme of this evening. Your final name in the Wisey translator tonight, I got to do it. Legendary Pennsylvania weatherman, Phil Connors.
Don't drive angry.
Because it's going to be 51 degrees here tomorrow, and it was snowing like a champ. So we had, this is one of those times where a giant squirrel just can't accurately predict the weather.
Here's what kills me. I reshared it today, and I shared it years ago. It's a picture of Bill Murray in the truck with the groundhog. It says, "Only here can we trust a groundhog, but not a scientist." I see nothing wrong there. So previewing next week, we will come to you Saturday night, the 8th at 8:30 p.m. with is this our fourth?
Yeah.
With the 4th annual Wise Guys Super Bowl preview. Confirmed guest will be the sporting Sith himself, Mr. John Rice, as he's not working the game this year, unlike last year when he did work the game. It's only our third. It's only our third.
And was fodder for us for 6 months afterwards.
Exactly. It was only our third because remember we skipped the second year because that's when I moved.
That's true. That was during your hiatus. And
so
this is going to look a little different because, quite honestly, none of us really have any intention of watching it. So we're not going to make our stupid prop bets because nobody's going to be watching to care. We're not going to do the commercials. We might not even do the over-under.
Let's take a look at what some of the prop bets are.
Yeah, we'll take a look at them, but we won't make predictions. I believe you won last year's and I won the year before. And I want to say maybe Alex won the first year.
Alex got to go back and look. Alex did win the first year.
If
That
I
just
do
means
tune in at all, it might actually just be for the commercials. I could care less about Kendrick Lamar, unless
fuck
he's
him.
actually going to be roasting Mikey Che.
I am interested for two things. One, I would love to see Saquon Barkley put a bow on this season. I'm going to tune in to see Giant fans squirm every 5 seconds when he gets the ball. But listen, we're talking about it could be history, and to have it be done by a team that, yes, everybody's complaining about all the refs and everything else, but if you look at the numbers, they're not getting as many calls as people think. To have these guys do it with a coach that was run out of a town because he couldn't win the big one, and now he can't seem to lose it. Look, it's going to be an interesting game either way. I doubt I'll watch much of. I will watch some of it because of the storylines that I personally am following. Paris Campbell being the only Buckeye in the game, but of course we have the Kelseys involved. Did you see they want to do the poop coin for the coin toss?
Bruh.
I'm serious. Oh God. And listen, Jalen Hurts. Wouldn't that be the biggest middle finger to Alabama if Jalen Hurts win a Super Bowl and they talk about the kid from Oklahoma?
That would be funny.
This is
Although
what I'm saying.
not for nothing, talking about Alabama, last thing I'll actually talk about, and we'll go into it more next week with John. There is a lot, and I mean a lot, of run on Cleveland radio this week saying Abdul Carter at 2, Jalen Milroe at 33, because people are lavishing over him at the Senior Bowl. Like drooling, like he's the best. He was the best guy on the field and in practices. Like him and Jackson Dart are getting a lot of love to where they're borderline first round talents. And because remember, with the way that the draft staggers, the Browns get the first pick of the second round. It's not Tennessee.
Agree. I understand. We'll talk more next week. I'm not giving that away. And it's not because I'm going to go Homer honk on this. It's because there's reasons that I think it's a bad pick. But that's just me.
But we'll bury the lead a little bit, but we'll get, it gives us now 6 days to think about it.
And God willing, I'm talking about Pete Alonso re-signing with the Mets. This is getting fucking stupid. Boris, you bastard.
Which may actually be like 5 seconds in the blast next week if we get any more wacky trades in the next, 4 days.
Yeah, we'll have to cover that as well. But we will see you guys in 6 days. And then it's going to get interesting therein.
And we will have a lot more information about that. So it's good thing that we're actually doing the Saturday show. And it gives us one extra day to prepare for, what's coming. We're not going to say it. We're going to play the Joe Hendry, and we're not going to say his name, even though I just did. I'm not going to play the video, but we won't mention it until next week.
Absolutely. So we will see you guys Saturday night, 8:30, same bat time, same bat channel, for the preview of Super Bowl 59 and, of course, the hijinks with the Sporting Sith. Hopefully we have the fourth horseman and he's feeling better. If not, I might have another trick up my sleeve.
We might have a couple of different tricks up our sleeve, but again, much more information on the following week, and we will see you guys 6 days from tonight.
Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
Good night.